They're the type of people who would probably detest a Love Island contestant without recognising the similarities between them and said contestant. Hello and welcome to Rock, Paper, Shotgun. My name is Colm and I recently had the chance to play a few hours of Ubisoft's upcoming extreme sportsathon, Riders Republic. This is one that definitely caught my eye when the French publisher first announced it in September of last year, so I went into my preview session relatively positive. Thankfully, Deputy Editor Alice Bell has agreed to play Question Asker on this video, so let's get her on so I can vocalise my early impressions of Ubisoft's zany follow-up to Steep.
Oh, how the turntables have turned, Colm.
Indeed, yeah.
Because today I am asking you about a game that you have played. You got to preview Riders Republic, which is Ubisoft's new game. And for those who are not aware, what is Riders Republic?
It is essentially Steep 2, if you remember Steep, which is a couple of years ago now. Ubisoft's game that focused on winter sports, skiing and snowboarding and the like. This is Ubisoft's next extreme sports smorgasbord, but as well as having your winter sports, it is also introducing other disciplines as well, like biking, and there's this rocket-powered Iron Man thing. This thing isn't striving for realism, I should say. But I didn't get to try everything out. My session focused primarily on the biking and some of the winter sports like the skiing and the snowboarding.
I know you said it's not going for realism. It's a bit more wacky, or at least it looked that way to me from the trailers and stuff. Is that fair to say?
That is very fair to say, Alice. It is definitely more fun than Steep. When I say more fun, I mean it's more kooky, I suppose, but it does veer into like, oh, it's so random. It's kind of like a more obnoxious Steep. I don't know how many talkative NPCs are in this game, but in my session, which lasted for about 4 hours, I came across 2, I think, and they certainly made their presence known. I could really do without them. They're the type of people who would probably detest a Love Island contestant without recognising the similarities between them and said contestant. It is way, way too much. It's a little bit Steve Buscemi in 30 Rock. It is a little bit how do you do, fellow kids, as well.
Okay.
But maybe they're not targeting me with this wacky randomness and vernacular. Other people might go for a hook, line and sinker.
But that aside, how is it to actually play? We'll get the winter stuff out of the way. How's the skiing and the snow and that?
Again, my preview lasted for a couple of hours and it was guided by a demoist who was there with myself and 5 others who were in a group. And there was a lot to take in, even in a span of a couple of hours, because you're dealing with so many different disciplines and so many different events within those disciplines. I would have liked to have had more time just by myself, pootling about this world and exploring whatever else and getting to grips with all of the different sports. But of what I played, yeah, the skiing and the snowboarding, it reminded me an awful lot of Steep. There are different events, standard races. There are trick events as well. It's a game that wants you to enjoy it, I suppose, and maybe that goes back to the overall wacky tone they're going for. But take the trick events, and this ties into just how the skiing and the snowboarding controls. You can set it to auto land tricks if you want, rather than manual land. But at the same time, if you set it to manual land, you will get a points bonus. So it is very much bring you into this world, trying to get you to have fun as quick as you possibly can.
How's the biking stuff? Is it proper X Games, huge jumps that could kill you kind of thing?
Oh yes. Whilst I only dabbled with it because, to be honest, I wasn't good enough to play it all in first person. Playing in the first person mode is like, do you know those lads on YouTube who strap a GoPro to their helmet?
Danny McGaskill going along a mountain.
Yeah, like it has all that for adrenaline junkies who want to sit in front of a computer monitor. The biking is, I found it harder to get to grips with than the skiing and the snowing. And maybe this is because I was dealing with bikes that you play early on in the game, because I will say there is an upgrade system after every event. Or well, I shouldn't say after every event, but after some events, you will get new gear, so new bikes, new skis, whatever you were doing. So maybe this was just me playing on the lesser bikes, but the brake is incredibly stiff and very strong. So trying to manage that was definitely difficult at first. Getting used to the bike handling, it's certainly different to the other. Just take the skiing, for example. You're dealing in more wider turns. I quite enjoyed it. Again, like adrenaline junkie stuff, you know. But with the same thing, if you're doing a backflip or a front flip, you still have the auto landing if you want to if you find the manual landing a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
Well, with the control scheme, you can play it one of two ways. You can play it the Tony Hawk way, which is where you're messing about with the face buttons and the bumpers and triggers, or you can play it the skate way by just using the analog sticks. I will say, I didn't play it on keyboard because this is a game made for controller. I played it the Tony Hawk way, but I played it with manual landing, and I wiped out a couple of times, but by the end I was getting used to the control scheme, the turning clockwise on one button, turning counterclockwise on another, and readjusting yourself in the air with the analog sticks to make sure you're landing as perfectly as you can.
You're not so sold on maybe the vibe, but the play itself is fun.
It is. I should say as well, the game is very clear in wanting you to play this multiplayer, because in my group there were events where we were racing against each other or ones where we were playing as a team. But either way, the game is just all about that. Because even in the world, I should say, you can see other players cycling about and snowboarding and whatever else. So yeah, the game puts a huge emphasis on multiplayer. And the big thing in this as well is in the PvP mode, Riders Republic has a thing called mass races. Every hour at specific locations on the map, mass races will kick off, and you'll get a little notification on screen that says go to this mass race, you don't want to miss it. They're really pushing this. And what these are multi-stage 50 plus player races.
Oh wow.
In the vein of a triathlon. So in the first stage you'll be cycling down a mountain, and then you'll go over a cliff, and straight away you'll be wearing a pair of skis, or you will be gliding through the air, and there'll be a point where you're just automatically driving a snowmobile or something like that. These are utter bedlam at the start. Somebody who was in my group astutely pointed out this is like Fall Guys. Like it's just absolute mayhem at the beginning of the race, and then it's up to you to create distance between you and the other players. They're really good fun. The other aspect of PvP I wanted to bring up was Tricks Battle, which, to sum it up in a sentence, is very similar to the graffiti mode from Tony Hawk, but this is a team event. So one team is red, the other is blue, and you capture objects in the environment by doing higher scoring tricks than the other team on objects. It is a little different though, because I don't know for definite, but I believe objects are relinquished over time just because, but there was a lot going on, so I don't know for definite. It's also about scoring more points than the other team. Sometimes areas of the maps will have a score multiplier applied, and if that is in your tagged area, you and your team, you need to rush over to that area and just start doing tricks over there as quick as you can, because you might get 5 times the score. That aspect of it and that event would benefit from communication. It does seem like a very social game. I would like to play it myself at my own pace and explore the world, because I didn't get to do much of that. Just piss about in a wingsuit or cycle off large cliffs and just have fun. But it does seem to benefit from playing with your pals. However, not in-game pals. Keep them to a minimum, please. Thanks very much for chatting with me today, Alice, and for agreeing to swap roles as you played question asker and I played question answerer. If you, dear viewer, want to keep up with everything Riders Republic, then be sure to have a read of all of the lovely articles on the website. Thanks very much for watching, you absolute star. But before you go, do remember, for all of your PC gaming needs, keep it on rockpapershotgun.com.